Imagine the advantage of living with the knowledge that you're in a predictable stage of life, that people have been there before and done it before, and realizing that others' wisdom that you ignore or don't understand now, you will one day understand and maybe agree with. What if you could see their point of view now, realize they're probably right, and live by it? Granted, there's a lot of charlatans out there, so I'm really only talking about listening to the wise or the elderly, but even average everyday people that have experienced life, that are a little bit older probably, maybe they're younger, but they've experienced it, they might know what they're talking about. I think about it from the point of view of being a teenager. If you read about behavior stages in children, then you know at the age of 18 months they do whatever. At the age of 3 they are potty trained. There's adolescence, there's teenagers that think they know everything. There's all these predictable stages, and that continues throughout life. For example, when you reach your 40s, there's something like you realize no one had ever thought about you the whole time. When you reach your 50s, you care even less. By the time you're 70, you don't care at all what other people think. There's stages all throughout life, but we live, or I tend to live, in my own head, from my own point of view, thinking that I know what's best. But what if we could minimize our regret and try to learn from others? I mentioned in a previous video that I've been reading Munger's Almanac, and this is something that he does, is trying to learn vicariously through other people, learn from others' mistakes instead of your own. And ironically, this is something that I've heard before also, but didn't fully comprehend, and that's probably normal. We hear amazing wisdom and quotes all of the time that we disregard or don't fully understand. But imagine living from the perspective of others have been here and done this before, or living from the perspective of they're right, I should probably listen. Like, what if we learned from the elderly, people that have been there before? Gary Vee talks about this, how he spent tons of time with old people in old folks' homes, and there's cool videos you can watch on YouTube about the advice from the elderly, their regrets, the things they're happy they did. I think we don't do it because we are in denial that we're going to die and that we're going to get there. But these are people that were young. They look old because they are old, but that was once a young face. They lived life. I want to say the same life we're living, not the same, but you know what I mean. They were on Earth. They're in the same place. They had extremely similar circumstances, behaviorally, relationships. Like, obviously the world is a completely different place, but in most ways it actually isn't. You've probably heard that history repeats itself, that history is the biggest indicator of the future. Like, most things about people, human behavior and psychology has not changed at all. Our surroundings and the appearances have changed, but it's kind of an illusion. Like, we haven't changed that much. So what actually brings us fulfillment, joy, pleasure, happiness, whatever you want to call it, is the same. We're humans with human nature. We make the same predictable mistakes at certain stages. So what if we actually could learn from other people, read about their lives, read about their advice, and actually marinate in that advice, actually think about it, not just let it go in one ear, out the other, but think about what they're saying and how we can change our lives to implement that behavior, or change our behavior to fall in line with what they're saying to get the outcome that they're referring to. If I know that a 90-year-old man is saying his biggest regret was not working for himself, or his biggest regret was worrying what other people think, just the act of reminding myself of that, thinking about that, it starts to change something little by little. At first, it's kind of forced, but the more you think about it, the more it like sinks in over time. And then it seems like behavior and outlook and mindset begins to change from that. If an old person talks about how they wish they didn't care what people think, why can't I start doing that now? Why can't I start doing all the things that they refer to now? What if all the regrets that they list, I implemented actions to solve for that now?